Orta Doğu ve Afrika Bulut Direktörü olan Paolo PULCINI'yi sunumunu dinleyeceğiz. Mr. Paolo PULCINI, I am inviting you to make your presentation.
So, I apologize for not speaking Turkish. That's why I wasn't really sure if I was being invited or not. So, apologies for that. So yes, my name's Paolo PULCINI. I am the productivity lead for Middle East and Africa in Microsoft. What does that mean? Productivity within Microsoft, it's the area that focuses on helping our customers be more productive. So we obviously have to be very close to what the trends are. We need to be a little bit ahead of what the trends are in the market and what our customer challenges they're going to be facing. And my responsibility is to ensure that our customers stay as productive as possible. Now, obviously for that, central to my product list, you will know products like Office, Skype. These are the products that I'm responsible for. One of the most central products to our productivity offering is Project. So project management has to be an essential part of any kind of productivity approach. So what I'm going to try to do here in this time, and thank you very much for having me here, this is a great opportunity to meet you, is to address and to share with you what our vision is of productivity, where we see the modern workplace going in Microsoft, and how that fits in with all the products available. I'm not going to try to sell you our products, but just in general, what the tools are that we use to look in the future, to look today and in the future, and how Project fits into that. So what we call this modern workplace. Now, for those of you that are reading the slide, it says 2015, which is not a good thing when you say modern and you're a year old. I had changed it. I forgot to change it, so I apologize for that. So essentially, we've all seen that the market has been shifting. I think we recognize that you will recognize these things much more than I do. Our customers are no longer customers. They're brand ambassadors. They're not simply someone that we sell something to. We are concerned about what they're going to be saying about us, because that will make or break our success. So I don't know how many of you use, when you book a hotel room, if you use TripAdvisor. That's where I go. I care about what other people are saying about that hotel before I even book it. So my customers, but also my employers, my suppliers, they're all brand ambassadors. Everything is social. There's insight everywhere. Our hierarchies are no longer static. We're working in dynamic environments, not just organizations, but even the way we interact, the way we purchase, the way we manage our supply chains. Everything's becoming a lot more dynamic. Information. Now, when I started working, which is from what looks like a long time before most of you, information was scarce. The person that had information was the person that had power. If I had information, I would keep it, hoard it, nurture it, and then that would be my expression of success, is to give the information out. Today, insights have to be accessible. You have an idea, you put it out immediately, and you want other people to feed into it right away. I noticed with my daughter, who's 19 years old, she has an idea, she puts it into Facebook in a second. Before she even gets in the car, she's already getting feedback on it. And that idea has taken a life of its own. And within half an hour, she knows if it's something that is worth pursuing, or if it's the insight that she got made it worthless. So we've evolved into a much more dynamic environment. Productivity used to be siloed. In our companies, each department used to work on their own. Today, we work across. In Microsoft alone, trying to keep up with the organizational, how we organize is impossible. We have all kinds of organizations coming across. We call it a matrix. We call it a silo. We're completely interactive. We used to have transactional systems, and now they're interactive. So this shift has basically molded the way we operate. Also, another thing that we've noticed in the industry is now we have what we call millennials. These are the people that are born around the millennium, the change of the millennium. So these are people that aren't satisfied anymore in operating in a siloed environment. They're not satisfied, like I said in my example of my daughter, they're not satisfied in just simply waiting to present something or working on something alone. They're used to being mobile. Everywhere they are, they have to be able to access and operate. They don't sit at a desk anymore. Some companies today don't even have offices anymore. It's all open plan. So these are our employees. These are our customers. These are our suppliers. These are the people that we need to be able to interact with and respond to. This is a depiction of what our organizations look like. So when I started working, this is what an organization looked like. And my first job was right here. Right? Not a nice place to be. If I had an idea, I had to talk to him or her. There. Before it actually got to that guy, it was old. And I never talked to this person, ever, where I would get some insight. Today, that's what it looks like. It's chaos. But guess what? It's a lot more valuable. Okay? So you take this shift that's happened, and you build it into what our vision is. So we essentially build our productivity vision on 3 pillars. 1, teams and networks. Everything's a network now. So we need to collaborate. The second one, insights. That's the most crucial, critical one. And the third is security. Obviously, with this evolution of sharing information, accessing data, and so forth, security becomes a key aspect. Okay, so looking at the first one, teams and networks. Look at this depiction. This is actually one of our offices in Northern Europe. All these people are working potentially on the same project. Right? We're using a wall surface, that person's sitting on a beanbag. Everybody's interacting on the same project, feeding information in. That fits in to what we see as the new trends in project. We're all familiar with agility being, agile project management being the trend. We no longer work on long projects that take a long time with a lot of tasks. Projects need to be agile, slow, quick. We need to have tasks defined quickly, a product right away at the end. We generate a lot of data, a lot of insight that comes into these projects. So all of this, we require the right amount of tools to be able to manage that. Here's another example of all kinds of people on the phone, on voice, on text messaging, all contributing to the same project. And of course, we have mobile, right? When I started working, I had to go to the office to work. Now, you can work sitting in a train. And to be able to be mobile and to be able to contribute in any situation, you need to be able to access it with any kind of device. So that is our collaboration part of their vision. How many of you are familiar with Internet of Things? You've heard about this, right? So this is a projection of the amount of devices that will be contributing to our pool of data. Today, we roughly have the same amount of computers, tablets, and phones contributing to our insight, to our information, as we do Internet of Things. In 2019, most of our data will be coming from Internet of Things. So from everything else, from Internet of Things could be a radar, could be our car, could be our refrigerator, giving data that we use then to make our decisions and to feed into our projects. Here's a way to look at the data explosion. I don't know if anybody here has heard about a zettabyte. A zettabyte is 1 billion terabytes. A lot of data, right? In 2006, in the world, there was 0.16 zettabytes of data. We're projecting that in 2020, there'll be 44 zettabytes of data. That's a lot of data. You know who Satya Nadella is? He's our chairman. What he notices is, a while ago, the problem with data was, how do you store it? Where do I put the data? Then we solved that problem, right? We solved the problem of storage. Then it was, how do I process it? Are my processors strong enough? Today, that's not an issue either. What the issue is attention. It's so what? And that takes us to our second pillar, which is personalized insight. You're all familiar with relational and non-relational data. Now, any project approach, any approach to planning a project, any tool needs to be integrated to be able to feed not just from relational data, but also from non-relational data, from the Internet of Things, videos, data points, things that aren't in your documents and so forth. That's where the insight is. So the way I describe it, I always give an example. I used to work a long time ago in America, even though I'm Italian, but I lived in America. I used to work in a truck company. It was a company that rented trucks. It was a very big company. We had 45,000 trucks that we rented. And I was in the finance department, so I was processing data. And I'll give you an example of the difference between data and insight. I'll give you an example. I'll say in March, I rented 500 trucks in the city of New York. That's data, right? Does it mean anything? No, it's just data. Now I can combine it with other relational databases, maybe to my compensation plan, and I can say that my target was to rent 250 trucks. So I had a target of 250, and I rented 500. I put two data points together, I have information. I made 200% of my target. That's information. Now, is that insight? No. Insight needs to be actionable, needs to make me do something. What does information like I made 200% of my target, other than celebrating, does nothing. So I go to non-relational, I go to social media, so forth, and I find out that my competitor, in the same period that I rented 500 trucks, my competitor rented 5,000 trucks. I go into social media and I hear that people on Facebook are saying that my trucks are dirty, my trucks are not working, my prices are too high. That's insight. Now all of a sudden I combine all this information and I have actions. Yes, I rented 500. Yes, I did 200% of my target, but I need to fix something because my competitor is doing 10 times as much as me. I need to fix something in my product. And all of these have to generate projects. A project to how to fix my product, to make my customers happy. A project on how to sell more, because if I continue, even though I'm beating my target, I'll probably close in a year. That's the difference. That's how relational and non-relational has to come together, and our tools, because we don't have attention, because that's a scarce resource, have to help us do that. Our tools have to help us get all this together and channel it so that we can put insight into our projects. So this is a statement that I think resonates with me a lot, which is data without information, it's just noise. I rented 500 trucks. I sold 100 phones. Information without insight is confusion. I could have been celebrating because I made 200% of my target. That's confusion. It's wrong. Insight, and this is even more important, insight without easy, familiar, and actionable access is a lost opportunity. Right? This is what we're used to seeing, is that our data actually was, our insight, our business intelligence was actually governed by only a few people. Right? Most of you are project managers. You will have access to data and to insight because you need it to develop your projects. But how many people in the company usually do? In our experience, about 30% of the people have access to the data. The other 70% have no idea what's happening. By translating all this insight and all these projects into tools that we use every day, email, Excel, websites, so forth, that makes it available to everybody. And that's when it becomes an opportunity. You avoid losing that opportunity. So what I wanted to share with you today is, this is an actual example of a company, a customer of mine that I had about a year and a half ago in Italy. This is the largest, I can't share the name of the bank, but it's the largest bank in Italy. And it was my customer, and we went there to talk about how to reinvent their processes and how to make project management, how to get our tools of project management, help them improve what they do. And they had three basic objectives. One was to do what they do better, to improve, to get more insights in what they do. The second one was to optimize, so to get savings, to do the same things, but to do it with less cost and less time. And the third was to find out what their brand ambassadors were saying about themselves. So this is what the project looked like. Essentially, a bank, and many of you are banks, core business is I buy money, and then I rent it out. I lend it out, and I make interest. That's my core business. So they have a project They developed a project that would determine, take all my branches and rank them. Rank them according to funds available, number of customers, validity of customers. Thank you, and so forth. And that would determine which branch was the best one to go to. So from this analysis, this was an actual output of that analysis. You see a recognizable format. It came out in Excel, so they could use it. Anybody in the bank could use it. It showed that Como, which is a small northern Italian city, would be the best possible place because it's got the most managed funds, the best customers, the richest customers. It would be the best place to go and market their loan. What we added was a social flag. So we added a link to social networks. And you see there it's red. So normally the bank would have said, let me go and market here in Como. But when you clicked on the social flag, it would give you all kinds of other information that transformed all this information into insight. And what actually had happened in this case was, in that particular branch, the bank had refused a loan to a small business owner in the town. The small business was a bar in the town. The bank had refused a loan, the bar had gone bankrupt, and that person had committed suicide. So this is a true story. He committed suicide. Thank you. No problem, thank you. This is good, it's a live service. So he was a very well-known person in the community, loved and everything, and committed suicide. And everybody in the community blamed the bank. He said, this bank refused a loan to a small business owner. He committed suicide, bad bank. So can you imagine if this bank had not known this, they would have gone in there with big billboards and said, come to us, the friendly bank, we help the small people. It would have been the wrong place to do it. So that's where insight really transformed this information into a real decision-making tool. And these came out as projects. The projects for this one, Milano and Crema, was go ahead and market it. It's good. Good customers, good social insight. Varese, check it out. There's maybe other projects we need to do. In Como, it developed all kinds of projects. Let's go and invest in a school. Before we go market something, let's do something for the community to improve our image before we even try to sell them something else. Okay? And this really summarizes what our view is of getting insights to everybody in the company. Traditionally, 30% have access. What our mission is to give everybody, 100% of the employees, access to this insight. Even in the same bank, we gave every teller the capability of seeing on their mobile devices what the customer satisfaction was every day before they go to work. I don't know how many of you heard about what happened with Starbucks a year ago when the market crashed. The market, Dow Jones crashed. There was a disaster. A lot of people were depressed. And what Starbucks did, the president got out information right away to their customers to their employees saying, people will be depressed. People lost money in the stock market. Make sure you're extra nice to every customer. Make sure you give them a free cookie every time they come in, right? That had an incredible impact on their customer base. Do you have Starbucks in Istanbul? Yeah. So Istanbul has delicious coffee. Turkish coffee is delicious. Starbucks coffee is not delicious. Yet people go to Starbucks and pay $10 for a cup of coffee that's not good. Right? Why? Because they know how they have the insight. Every project they do, everything they do, they make sure they take everything into account. And in the end, the product may be not that great, but the result, their customers, they have people lining up. Okay? So again, it's important to transform information into insight, and it's even more important to get this insight out to the users. So every project that you run, every project that you plan has to be quick, has to be agile. You need to be able to feed into it quickly and produce a result quickly. But at the same time, it then needs to be accessible and understandable to everybody. So you need to put it in a way that people recognize. You need to visualize it in tools that you know. Right? If I look at these are instinctive. They need to be instinctive. It can't be a list of numbers that I have to interpret. It has to be quick. We need to be actionable. In project now, what we're doing in project management, the main motion is agility. Everything's about agility, speed, act quickly. I need to understand what I'm seeing. When I wake up in the morning, every morning I look at my phone and I see what the sales and what the customer satisfaction is throughout the Middle East and Africa. And I see right away if there's one country that's having an issue, if there's customers that are having problems. I don't want to see a list of everything that's happening because I wouldn't have time to read it. I see right away where it is that what my day is going to look like. Because I see right away these two countries, I need to go to South Africa because there's a big issue. Or I need to come to Turkey because there's a huge event. Final pillar, security. So when we look at, in all this environment, do you know what the best way is to keep your data safe? Anybody know? Best way is to turn off the server and close the door. Right? Even better, burn the server. Right? So I can't tell you how many customers I meet with throughout Middle East and Africa, and before that in Europe, who say, well, collaboration's good. I build in cloud and collaboration into my project management processes, but I'm worried about security. Right? That's a common problem, especially finance in Turkey. I know there's many regulations that prevent you from really being collaborative. I had a case in Nigeria lately where a customer, this was a retailer, told me, he said, I don't really want to collaborate too much. I don't want to put things in a data center because I'm worried that the Americans will look at my data. This is a small retailer in Nigeria. So I said two things. First of all, why do you think the Americans care about your data? It's not that interesting, really. I think the Americans have other things to worry about. And second, if the Americans really care about your data, you think they're waiting for you to put it on the data center? They probably have little drones like that flying around taking pictures already. Right? So security, it's not so much governments accessing data, but it's, you lose your phone and someone picks it up. It's encryption. It's making sure your employees don't do stupid things that can ruin the data. In our vision of how we work, how our tools work, we do everything possible to push the data out to the users. We don't wait for the users to have to access the tools to get the data. That guarantees 100% security. I'm not giving you access to come into my tools where you could do damage. I'm giving you the data you need, which is a completely different approach. And when I get the data I need, I don't go access a database. I don't have to be asked 10 times what my password is. A long time ago, I was sales director for Dell, Dell computers in Italy. And I had a CRM tool where I had to put in all my opportunities. All my salespeople put the opportunities. And to get in there, I had to do like 4 different passwords. And a thumbprint and retina check every time to do one stupid thing. So in the end, what I did was I downloaded everything into Excel. I went home and did it at home, which is the worst possible security thing you could do, right? That's what people do. When security is too stringent, when to go in and put a task in a project management tool, you have to put in 3 passwords, you either find a better way to do it, which is insecure, or you become less productive. And I'm the productivity lead. I need to make sure my customers stay productive. So the way our security works is we balance the two. So on one side, users, project managers, everyone needs to be interactive, share and collaborate, analyze, get insights, read from outside sources. But on the other side, we need to make sure that we stay secure, that we keep our data integral, that we don't allow people to ruin the data. So the way it works is a user-centric approach. All our tools are designed around growing and learning from our users. So in this example here, we have someone in the marketing department puts into the system something that looks like a credit card. If you put in a task in their project, they put in a task and they say, okay, this will be a purchase and here's a credit card. It gets flagged by the security team. Security team calls them and says, hey, you put in a credit card number, that's something you shouldn't be doing. It's against security. The marketing team says, don't worry about it, it's something I normally do. We use credit card, this is a fake credit card, and we use it to test our marketing schemes. The security team builds that into the tool, they never asked again. When I transferred over to Middle East and Africa, I got a new account in my Microsoft. My first 3 days, I was putting in passwords everywhere. I was getting questions from security everywhere. Since then, I go into the office, I put in my password once. Actually, I just do it on my phone, so without even going to the office. Once, and I never get asked again. The security system keeps me 100% secure, and I never ask for a password, I've never asked for anything like that. Once in a while, I'll get called just to verify that it's still me. That's user-centric security. That guarantees you staying productive, but 100% secure. So it's essential. So if you look at the way we build it, collaboration, accessing outside sources, working as a network, that's key. That's the only way you can move quickly, you can be agile, and really have your projects run smoothly. So all kinds of tools filling in automatic, linked to your project tool, feeding in information and enriching the tasks. Personalized insight is taking all this information coming in and making it relevant, having relevant tasks. When I started working a long time ago, I was actually in project management and finance. So I did acquisitions. We were buying companies, so each one of these was a big project. And these were one-year projects with tasks and so forth, all kinds of information, meaningless stuff. It was very hard to manage that. And people would change. I mean, I even had a person die during a project. I had to reschedule everything because the person died. It was such a long project that I risked actually death. Right? It's not agile at all, but back then, we didn't need to be agile. That company doesn't exist anymore, by the way, so actually. If you know this fact that I think it's 93% of the companies that were in the stock exchange 100 years ago have closed and gone bankrupt today. So those companies that everybody felt secure about, all the market leaders, today don't exist anymore. So personalized insight, very important to be able to give relevance and meaning to each task, to each step in a project, to each data point, to each part of information. And of course, security, which is a central part of keeping everything 100% secure. And that is what we see as our vision. And one key thing that we're approaching, and it's changed since 2 years ago, was before we would work with our customers and say, let me see what you do, and let me help you do it better. Today, we're doing it differently. Today, we actually go to our customers and we say, here's what we should be doing. Let's change let's reinvent the processes. Let's not just go and try to improve the process, but let's actually reinvent them. Now, throughout this session, and I know tomorrow you'll be going into a little bit more detail on how these are some of the mission statements that our customers have. But throughout this session, and tomorrow you'll get some more specific sessions around how our tools work, what the different steps are, and how they adapt to our changing environment. Our productivity approach has radically changed this year. I actually found out last night that my title's changed. So I was the productivity lead. Today I discovered that I am the modern workplace lead. So you can congratulate me. I don't know if I'm going to get a raise. I don't think so. But it is a different title. So today I found we are changing, Microsoft's redefining, and not just Microsoft, everyone in this industry, we're having to redefine ourselves. We had a meeting a few months ago in Seattle where we were presented with a case. We had the Harvard Business Review was there, and they said, today, many of information companies like Microsoft and other competitors are actually going through transformations to adapt to the way the market's changing. And it's for the first time in history that a company is reorganizing, but not because they're not performing well, but because they know that if they don't reorganize in 2 years' time, they'll have a problem. That's what our customers are doing. That's what we're doing. That's what that bank, the largest bank in Italy, very big, I think it was the top 6 or 7 banks in Europe, they came to us, top successful, just purchased many other banks, and said, we need you to help us stay ahead of what's happening. This is essential to do today. And you will get other sessions with colleagues of mine tomorrow. We have a booth outside, so I really encourage you to come and talk to us, because what you'll be hearing is not talking about the next version of the tool that we have, not talking about the new version of Office. We don't do that anymore. We'll talk with you about how do we maximize, how do we capitalize on what's happening in the market? How do we get access to all this social information and really, add relevance? You all know about, agile project management. We need to be more agile, we need to be quicker, and so forth. We need to have project management as a service, right? We don't want to buy a whole bunch of things. We want to be able to have a lot more tools when we need them, and a lot less tools when we don't need them, and our pricing needs to be according to that. That's fine, but how do you really do that? How do you really build these insights in to allow you to be agile? Yeah, my boss interprets agility as saying, I need this tomorrow. Right? So find a way to do it. That's not agility. That's stress. Right? Other people, are you all familiar with big data? Yeah. Big data, other people interpret big data as being a big database full of data. That's not big data. That's a lot of data. Right? I have an example where I was working with the government in Italy. I take Italy as an example, but they called us and they said, we have a big data project. We have all the 60 million Italians, we have a database of all this so that we can do passports and access their information. And they said the project that they developed was to have the end result be that any Italian citizen goes in there, asks for a passport, and within a month they give him a passport. I said, in a month? It takes you a month to get a passport? They said, yeah, well, it's a month, that's good. I said, don't you want to give it to them the next day? And the government said, who cares? It's the Italian government. They said, who cares? Right? That's not big data. That's a lot of data. Big data requires you to be quick, to be agile. Right? So it's a lot of data. It needs to be volume, velocity, variety, so forth. When there's no volume, no velocity requirements, it's not big data. So that was the trend. That was where I kind of walked out and said, okay, here's the database, good luck. Today's project management has a requirement for agility, which means not just quick, not just short, but it has to have a meaningful product at the end. It needs to mean something to me at the end. Right? The result of this project needs to have something that is directly linked to my business and has a value attached to it. Okay? So I highly encourage you to stop by our booth, listen to the sessions this afternoon and tomorrow. And please reach out to us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And sharing your valuable ideas with us today. Please accept this plaque and keynote speaker certification
Thank
as
you.
a remembrance of today, your presence here.
Thank you.
And also, this is a set of books, probably the only set of books in Turkish you'll ever have.
They're in Turkish, okay.
Donated by our sponsor, publishing company Optimist, to our speakers. And we also want to support a forest in Ödemiş, Turkey. And here's a certification in your name for one of the trees in this forest.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.